Saw Gladiator 2 last night, and with that being said, in making my top 10 favorites of the year, unfortunately, I don't think Gladiator 2 is going to make that list, but I did have fun with it. That's not to say there's bad stuff in this movie. I will say, though, it is interesting, because I didn't grow up with the original Gladiator. I didn't have a nostalgic spot with it, so when watching this movie, I kind of just went in excited to see where it would go, and I really loved the first movie watching it last week. But with that being said, Gladiator 2... unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make my top 10 best of the year or anything like that. I didn't hate it, though. I think there's some good stuff in this movie, but I do find it to be a less concise, less well put together movie as the first one. And not to just make a comparison game, but when this movie and what Gladiator 2 kind of deals with, sometimes it feels like it's exploring a lot of the similar themes, a lot of the ideas, and a lot of the similar motivations from the first movie, just unfortunately in a less concise, well put together way. Not to say that the movie's bad, but I just feel like it has a giant collection of good ideas on paper that none of them get really fully time to develop, because I feel like this movie really wants to just kind of be scatterbrained with what it wants to do with its characters, no pun intended. I feel like Gladiator 2 has a lot of potential because I think the cast is fantastic. Paul Mescal's great as the main character, and none of the performances are bad. Denzel Washington, as a matter of fact, is great in this movie with the screen time he's given. Same thing with everyone else. Pedro Pascal, he's great with the screen time he's given. But I say that because I don't feel like all the characters get fully enough time to really fully develop and sing for what their arcs are doing in this movie. I don't feel like Denzel Washington's character gets enough time to shine. Really by his motivations by the end of this film. He's a fascinating character, but I don't feel like the movie spends enough time with him. You know how in Gladiator 1, I have a whole thing where we're exploring stuff like Joaquin Phoenix's motivations. We're taking time to really simmer in the relationships with characters. I feel like Gladiator 2 puts those points in there. It brings up the idea that, yeah, these characters have connections, these people know each other, but we don't really get a lot of scenes where we're just sitting down and really breathing with that. This movie felt like it was really much more focused on getting to the action, getting to the bigger spectacle scenes, which I appreciate. They're well helmed. The movie looks great, other than some really spotty CGI at times. That's not to say the CGI is bad, but in a movie that is trying to jump off the heels of a film that was really known for its practical effects and really known for its costume work, it does stand out more in Gladiator 2 when you see a CGI monkey running around compared to everyone else who's doing great stunt work, great practical work. It kind of feels like they kind of took a step back, and when it comes to effects, when it comes to CGI and stuff like that, and that comes from just comparison of so much practical effects and practical sets. I do appreciate that this movie has a lot of that, though, even though sometimes the animals look a little muddy. There's some excellent action in this movie. There's some great action sequences. I think a lot of the sound design is awesome as well. There's some great clashing moments with swords. There's moments where people get, attacked, hit, whatever I'm allowed to say on the YouTube guidelines, whatever. But, point is, there's some great moments, some satisfying clashes, and I do appreciate the action a lot in this movie. I just felt like the characters really kind of took a back seat, because by the end, a lot of the character beats that were really foreshadowed and then finally delivered on felt like they were kind of rushed through. It didn't feel like this movie wanted to simmer in that emotion as much as it wanted to. It kind of speed runs through monumental moments that characters are going through, and then by the end it ends on a big emotional note, but because we rush through so many of those moments, it doesn't feel as well earned. It doesn't feel as well like, oof, I just got hit in the chest. Gladiator 1, I just watched it last week for the first time, like I said, and I was a tearing mess by the end. It hit me in the emotions because it really took time to simmer in those moments. You're really feeling the anguish with Russell Crowe's character. As to where here, I like that they take some beats like that. Kind of feels like it's like, okay, that's just Gladiator 1, but you're moving a lot faster and getting to the action quicker. And the action in Gladiator 1 is great, but I never felt that was the point of Gladiator 1, ironically. I felt Gladiator 1 had a lot more to say about the politics of the world, the way human nature runs itself, the way people are with their obsession with spectacle, the idea of vengeance, and really, is he wrong for wanting that vengeance in a world like this? There's a lot of cool stuff in Gladiator 1 that I think Gladiator 2 wants to tackle that same theme. It just doesn't do it as well, unfortunately, and I think if Gladiator 2 maybe tried to chase something a little different, or maybe just picked a few plot lines to focus on, it would have been a lot more smoother. Sometimes Gladiator 2, it feels like we're really jumping around, we're really reaching to have so many character arcs happen at once, like the twin emperors in charge. I think the performances are fine, they're over the top, they're working for that really nice role, but the problem to me is it kind of feels like sometimes it does come across like we are mimicking Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It feels like we're just kind of repeating real best moments of performances from the first movie, which isn't fair on the characters in this one. I wish they would get their own time to flesh out, because by the time we have Denzel Washington's character really coming into the forefront, becomes a much more prominent player later in the movie, No spoilers, don't worry. It doesn't feel as well earned. It feels like it just kind of glosses through those significant moments to really speed run to the end. And that was where I think Gladiator 2 really faulted for me, is I think there's a lot of great moments, a lot of great highs in the movie, a lot of visually dazzling moments, because Ridley Scott directs with energy. He directs like a dude that's our age. Like, and you gotta respect that. I know people like to act like a history major every time he makes a movie and then say he's a bad filmmaker. I don't think he's a bad filmmaker. I just think this movie, in terms of the writing, didn't really juggle its characters as well as it could have. To give another great example, I think Pedro Pascal's character, he has some great potential in this movie. There are beats with him, and I really liked it because they're kind of tackling this vengeance, but also this sympathetic angle and what it means if you misunderstand a situation or really jump into the idea of wanting vengeance. But what if the person you're going after has different motivations than even what you thought? Like, that's an interesting idea. This movie throws that idea at the start of it out there, but you don't really get enough time to explore to deal with it. I don't feel like Pedro Pascal's character got much time to shine in this movie for what the film was presenting him as, and I would have found that very interesting. That was like the dynamic I really wanted to tackle, and I felt like if this movie didn't try so hard to have like so many different things happening at once, like Denzel Washington's character, his agenda, the twin emperors, their agenda, you have Pedro Pascal and his agenda, but it's all separate agendas that eventually come together by the end. But when all the plot lines clash, the movie speed runs to the resolution like that, and it doesn't feel like you get enough time to really simmer in those moments that could be very monumental for not only the main characters, but the world and the society they're living in this world of the movie as well. That being said, though, I don't think Gladiator 2 is a bad movie, but when comparing it to Gladiator 1, it is very much subpar in my opinion. I do think it's not as good. I think there's great moments, I think it's visually dazzling, I think there's great scene work in it, but when you put it all together, sometimes it doesn't always fully meld well. This movie didn't really emotionally wreck me by any means. There were some moments where it felt like just repeats of the first movie, some moments where I was like, that's good action, but I can't lie to you, I was sitting there in Gladiator 1 at home, more engaged. I do hope this movie makes money, though. I do want people to see it because I love big spectacle movies like this. I think Ridley Scott does direct with visceral nature to it. I will say this movie feels a little bit more rushed together than the first one. I don't know. Didn't work on it. Wasn't there. But that's how it feels sometimes. Not as good as the first movie, but I do have fun moments in it. Like I said before, there's great visually dazzling scenes. There's some good scene work. With that being said, though, I could have just used a little more in the emotional territory. I could have used a little more in just sitting with some characters. I could have used a little more in just exploring the dynamics at hand, rather than always wanting to just get to the next big spectacle moment with a shark or something like that. With that being said, I didn't love Gladiator 2. I had very mixed reaction on it. I thought it was here and there, some great moments, some moments I really thought were all right overall in the grand scheme of things, and I just found the ending rather unfulfilling personally. I wasn't a huge fan of the way this movie wrapped up. I felt it was very rushed, and it didn't really earn its final moments. But with that being said, I think you can have fun with this movie. I hope you do. What did you think of Gladiator 2, guys? Do you enjoy it? Do you like the first one? Which one do you like more? I could see people liking this movie. It's gotten some mixed reactions online. My friend loved it. He was telling me it was great. But yeah, what do you guys think? Thank you so much for watching Scatterbrain Reviews. Thank you so much for watching our trailer for our horror project Shift. It means the world. We do not take that for granted. Please leave a like, a comment if you'd like. Come talk movies with us, man. Happy... It's not a holiday. I don't know what I was saying happy for, but like, thank you so much for watching Scatterbrain Reviews. I will see you next time.